Can a filmmaker ever control how an audience interprets a film? Or does the audience ultimately decide what the film means? These days, you'll get a positive response to every film and a negative one straight away. But let's hear from the man himself, the man behind Citizen Vigilante. Filmmaker Uwe Boll returns.
That was quite dramatic. Thank you so much, Uwe, for joining us. I know we spoke a little bit off camera, but it's great to see you again. I had such a great time last time we spoke, delving into film history, and I feel we might touch on things like that in this as well. It's an absolute pleasure to see you again, and as we're recording this, it was your birthday yesterday, so I'll say it on camera. Many happy returns.
Thank you.
It's an exciting time. I think last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about different people having lots of opinions, and for every good one, there's a negative one, or for every one that agrees, there's one that disagrees. The issue being that these days, that's at like 100 miles an hour, and it's instant. And I always, one thing that I take criticism, I find it difficult sometimes. I kept thinking about the word provocateur. Do you enjoy being a provocateur? Is art one of those things where you quite like getting hold of an uncomfortable subject and seeing what people make of it?
You know, like, I think it's a little like Vinnie Jones was when you know, where this kind of like, he definitely developed the brand, you know, getting the most red cards in the history and stuff like this. So, and I have the tendency to touch subject matters people don't touch, or they feel like, oh, you cannot do this, like on Postal, for example, Rampage, like various movies I did, they were very not mainstream.
Yes.
And the Citizen Vigilante is, of course, exactly this. And it was for a lot of the, let's say, film distributors, very surprising that now the movie kind of explodes in social media, and people talk about it on the political side, and big newspapers also, like the Telegraph, and in Germany, the Berlin Zeitung, they wrote big articles about it. That we have in Germany this kind of ban on the movie, that they basically try to, like, that I cannot release it. And I met the censorships in Germany yesterday, and they said I should apply again for a third screening to get a rating. And I hope also, like in UK, in Australia, that the movie will be available fast now, after US and Canada got it out. And for me, any form of censorship is undemocratic, you know, like that's the thing. I mean, when we have the freedom of speech, art, whatever, writing books, I don't think you should disallow anything, especially for people over 18. You know, that's then political. In my case, for that movie, it's kind of a political censorship. And I like also to go back in time and think about a lot of movies 20, 30, 40 years ago. They were about actual situations. They were about political scandals, and they were not shying away from it. And I feel right now, like when you see the typical streaming movies or the typical movies getting released by the studios, they are they're not hitting hard into what's going on in the reality here, right? So, and I feel with Citizen Vigilante, it hit the nerve, and now people talk about it, and I hope a lot of people will also buy it, because we need also to recruit money. You know, it's like I'm not a sponsor of film. I need to get people, not like there are so many illegal streams already on, even on X. That's ridiculous. I think people should be fair and at least pay the stream.
I saw that yesterday. Actually, somebody had posted it, and you put underneath, like, take my movie down, dickhead or something like that. Then I was just like, well, for me to watch the movie, I had to, like, well, I'll probably cut this out. I use a VPN, go to America, buy from America, watch it. It's not a difficult process. Obviously, like you say, eventually, obviously, I wanted to watch it before I spoke to you, so I could be informed. But the idea, like a piece of entertainment, great, it's entertainment. However, there is, a process that involves. It's not like you're working for a massive production company in the USA that can afford to throw money away, and seemingly these days in 2026 they love throwing money away on things that nobody watches, particularly on streaming. So yeah, of course, that must be really frustrating that people are talking about it but can't see it. And I guess one of the things that must be even more frustrating must be people who have already made up an idea in their head about the film without watching it, maybe even reviewed it without watching it.
Like, for example, when Variety wrote a review, it came from this looking down on me, looking down on independent films in general. And it's really like this kind of, okay, we don't like the content of that film. So now we don't write that we don't like the content. We just discredit Uwe Boll again. No filmmaker ever did another shit movie. It's a joke. It's not a serious movie. It's exploitation. It's bullshit. Armie Hammer should be canceled. Like this kind of looking down. And I had that so many times in my career, even for very big, like good movies like Rampage, Darfur, whatever. Like these people are basically bought and paid from the studio.
Yeah.
And they're writing like 2 pages about Superwoman. Like Superwoman is a super important movie, but it's of course not. It's like just another $200 million popcorn brainwashing piece of shit, basically, right? So, but they make it sound great filmmaking. I mean, how can you not make a great looking film for $200 million?
Well, that's true. Yeah. It should see it on the screen for sure. Yeah. I mean, you talk about looking down and things like that. I kept thinking, a filmmaker kept coming to my head when I was reading things that people wrote about this film and you. And like you say, most of the things they write about is about you rather than the film. Like nobody ever looked at, like, say, Pasolini and was like, this guy is promoting, disgusting things in the sense of like he's doing it. Yeah, he's eating poop or something. Like no one's saying he's doing these things. Like no one, because that's art, And it's like, we talk about it in a highfalutin way. I do think there's an element of snobbery, isn't there, where it's like the same person who made this film can't make this film, and ultimately there's a lot of people who maybe might watch Citizen Vigilante but don't watch high art or don't watch a big blockbuster. They want an entertainment film with like kind of that draws them in, that they can follow in a edge of the seat kind of way. And there isn't really I got that from the film. I got like a kind of dread from it, and really unless the stakes are really high, you're not going to have dread. So unless the stories feel quite intense and grounded in a sort of real world, they're not in space, then you sit on the edge of your seat. And even if you don't like the film, you can't look away.
Yeah, that's funny. I gave an interview yesterday to a podcast in the US, and the guy said similar things. He said, look, I know if I watch an Uwe Boll movie, I cannot go to the toilet. I have to focus, and I'm on the edge of the seat, and I pay attention. And he said because he felt it's an authentic thing. It's not an artificial, made-up story where basically the director is like a tool doing the movie. And it's a filmmaker's film. And that's the thing. I think what they cannot handle in this, for doing this for 25 years now, is that's the reason I was never in an A-list festival, or I was not like getting a write-up in the New York Times how great I am. So it's like it cannot handle this kind of straight in your face confrontation. They cannot handle me personally because I do that all the time, and they cannot handle it in the movies. That it's this kind of like I don't try to make art. I try to make movies, and I try to tell stories and give my point of view about things. And a lot of kind of, you know, they need films like whatever Moonlight. They stay for something, you know, like this kind of like a reflection on something is what most of the filmmakers want, and what this kind of film distributors want also. But I think that what's happening right now with Citizen Vigilante and what happened before with Iron Lung, or now with Obsession, or, you know, like, or Backrooms.
Backrooms.
Yes, I think the big studios struggle for survival with more and more money spending on stuff what basically nobody really wants to see, but they go because of all the money they throw at it. They buy indirectly, they're buying the audience, right? And then the audience is more and more tired of it, more and more not interested. And when then something comes along like Citizen Vigilante, it works based on social media reactions, based on traffic, you know, where people say, I give a shit if this has a big release, a big marketing budget, or won the Cannes Golden Palm. That's a movie. What has to do with my life, with like what I see on the streets every day, where I'm worried about, and then they watch it. So, and I think that's the situation right now. You know,
I agree. I agree in the sense of, like, I feel they're playing catch up in a way that, you know, the 3 films that you mentioned by YouTubers, they're desperate. Now, I really enjoyed Backrooms, Obsession, Iron Lung was okay, but I feel that they were playing catch up. All of a sudden, they're like, yes, we love YouTuber movies now, because people had kind of connected to them before they did, in a way. And now it's like, well, we'll probably be in a cycle of maybe 10, 15 more of those. It's playing catch up, really, because, for example, Curry Barker made a film on YouTube, released it for free, Milk and Cereal, which I think was better than Obsession. And it did get a lot of traction, but only within people who were watching YouTube. So again, the studios are behind the times, and I'm not sure they know now. It's almost like it's full of ads and promotion and tie-ins, and the movie is the last thing that's thought about. And I guess as well, one of the things is, if we do put a personal, you know, a reflection of somebody's life, things that people see, of course, within that is going to be some heightened what if. Let's factor that by 10. Let's factor that by 100 to create entertainment. People just instantly will say that you are endorsing a behavior because you're showing a behavior. And that's a very simplistic way of doing it, isn't it? Like, just, you know, this film is not saying you need to be going building your bunker with machine guns in it. No, well, it might be. I don't know. You tell me. No, but I didn't get that from the movie. I was like, well, you know, of course, you know, if I've had neighbors that were horrible, that I really did not get along with. In your head, you think, fuck that person, and that might create a script that is very anti that person, because in that moment I'm angry. And I think what people don't understand is, like, making a movie isn't necessarily saying this is what you should go and do, or this reflects what I think you should do. I don't understand. Do you, like, Michael Winner didn't get that with Death Wish. People just assumed he wasn't. Well, he wasn't afraid of telling people that he wasn't a particularly good, nice person anyway. So he wasn't that bothered about how he was portrayed. But the sort of the criticism was against the film, whereas with the difference with this is the criticism is about you and what you are telling people to do, which I think is quite insulting to the people and to you.
Yeah, and it's like, I agree. And I think also that a movie, a fiction movie, is not a documentary, right? It's also not a political commentary in the way you write it in a newspaper. So
Yeah.
I condemn violence. I don't want that, like whatever, in Belfast, they burn down a migrant home. I don't want this. But with a movie like this, you can warn the governments and the society, like, you also cannot just criminalize people who are against migration. You cannot, like what they do in England, what they do in Germany, where you get killed sometimes people because they're insulting a politician and stuff like this. This is actively destroying freedom and democracy, because you guys cannot handle that there is a real problem and that you don't manage the problem properly. Right?
Yeah,
so,
the frustration of not being able to have that conversation. You know, it definitely brings out, and this is the problem, it brings out people who will cause terror and destruction wherever they go because it's an opportunity, but it also might create in people a frustration that they can't have the conversation, and they're the people who maybe write the angry, aggressive things online. Even if they're not acting on it, they're writing angry and aggressive things online because they feel that there's no platform to talk about what's bothering them. And it's such a balance, isn't it? Like you say, no one is wanting anyone to go and do that, you know, do horrific, horrendous things. But there has to be a way that people can say, this is happening next door to me. I guess where I fall in this is the people who do more harm than good by jumping on the bandwagon and attaching it to their own political, say, ambition. Like so it's such a wild west where you don't know who is genuinely having a problem and who is genuinely going, oh, this is a fantastic way of getting people to push me to power. And I guess that's probably why I switch off politically from things, because I don't know who's a grifter, who's a liar, who's telling what's really happening, who's living next door to these problems, and who's just saying they are. And that's really hard. But stories need to be told, don't they? Like real, you know, there are good behaviors and terrible behaviors on every side. You know, that's the.
No, I agree 100%. And the reality, for example, I'm living in Germany, right? And in Germany, the public TV, like the equivalent of the BBC, they on purpose don't report migrant crimes. They on purpose say not the nationality of if there is a murder or whatever, or somebody runs amok. But of course, the people know it. Right, the people, there is the social media, and there is, you cannot keep things secret. You know, when a Saudi Arab guy pushes somebody in front of the subway, the identity get revealed. It's only a question of time. So I think they are so scared that everybody turns Hitler again, basically, that they lost completely the narrative here. And that they're counterproductive. I told that to the rating system in Germany too, where I personally went and discussed that with them. I said, look, to disallow a movie only puts gasoline in the fire. It only that the population say, see, these are all left-wing fascists who want to censor the only movie what is not pro-migration. You know, and at the same time, we have tons of pro-migration movies made in Germany and aired at prime time, you know, but they also turn into a farce because the population thinks, oh, another whatever scientist from Afghanistan is in the lead of our TV show, and like, okay, that's just unrealistic, right? It's just bullshit, and they make things up like this, and that I think this kind of what we have now with the culture clash, what you have with Keir Starmer step back. I think when I saw him together with Macron and Merz, always like German Chancellor meeting, I think Starmer actually didn't get it that people sort of failing. I think he really believed that he did it all right, that he did the good thing, and that he's the best one. And then he was super like shocked and sad when he got like, no, it's over. Like nobody wants you actually anymore. And I think that's the same situation with this kind of movie producers who only want to be politically correct and this kind of stuff. And I think that being an independent all my life is like the tide is shifting. You know, this kind of like in regard of movie production too. Like you have now outlets. Nobody can, in the very end, nobody can really stop you in making your film available. As you said, you put it on YouTube and you say like whatever, you know. So it means you will get an audience. You will have possibilities where nobody can really censor you away. And I think that's the message to Hollywood. And one thing about the political thing, I went down the rabbit hole and looked a lot of the chats, like what was going on about Citizen Vigilante, right? And deeply, I saw like this kind of neo-Nazis. For me, I have to crystal clear say that I'm not right-wing radical. I was never. And when you watch my movies like Postal, Rampage, whatever, they're very nihilistic, they're existentialistic, they're very political neutral, and they give shit to everybody from any political side. And I do that on my German-speaking podcast. And one thing is for clear, like when it came to all that discussions about, and I'm not talking about Israel means Jews, you know, and these people who post like this, that it's the Jews being responsible for everything. And I have to say, you're mental ill, right? I mean, the Jews have nothing to do with the migration situation in Europe. That's completely absurd, you know.
And the blame culture in general is like we will use whatever tool we can to blame the thing we want to blame. I saw a wonderful interview the other day, which is from the kind of zero IQ side of the migration argument, which was this guy going, "Oh, I blame all the migrants why I can't get a job," and the lady says to him, "Oh, okay, you know, what do you want to do?" And he goes, "Well, I've only been out of prison about 3 weeks," and she goes, "But it's the migrants that you blame rather than the fact you've just been in prison for this." And he was like, "Yeah," and he didn't have to say anything. He proved his idiocy through his own words, and I feel like, on every side of every argument, there are people who do more harm than good by being vocal when the things they're talking about undo their own argument on both sides of this thing. And you talk a little bit there about how the discourse online. One of the things that I find really interesting is this underestimating that the audience can watch something and they're not going to instantly just get on board with everything that they see. Like I watched your film yesterday, and it has, you know, I'm not nipping down to the gun shop later on. Like, it's a movie, like you said. I watched a movie and I got a lot out of it, just like when I sat down in the 80s as a probably far too young child watching all the Death Wish films. It didn't make me into Paul Kersey. And you know, I just think like there seems to be some sort of, maybe like you said, doing more harm than good by kind of trying to nanny people and go, "Oh, if you watch this will make you do this." And like, okay, if it does that, then those people will probably have found another movie that would have made them do it anyway, because they just wanted to do that thing. That's the way I've always looked at it.
Yeah, and look, movies and video games are not making people running amok. It's always, there are two or three different elements to it. I did Heart of America about school violence, you know, like a Rampage where he goes on a rampage without any real reason, you know. It's like
yes.
It is way different as Citizen Vigilante and way more nihilistic and you know, and like more than in Rampage 2 and 3, more domestic terrorism. And I feel Citizen Vigilante is a little like falling down
Yes.
the first 30, 40 minutes, right? Where he schools people at McDonald's, like, and like, give me the breakfast, whatever, or the traffic jam, and this kind of stuff, where you have this in the movie, where he schools that guys in the bus, where he, in the disco club, changes the roofie that they cannot tranquilize the girls. So it's not all about migration crime. It's more about this kind of, there's a lot of shit going on, and he's like a corrector, like this kind of like a very like military skilled kind of arrogant guy. I also don't show him like he's a superhero. I show him like, like he's kind of an asshole to his renters and to his like people.
To staff. Yeah.
He's arrogant, right? So, and I felt you need to give this guy kind of a shadowy character, but indirectly he gets like then celebrated on social media, and the people say, yeah, we don't care who it is, but he's doing this, what basically the law enforcement should do. And I think that's, for me, triggered this. When rapists walk free and you shaming the victims, it happens in Europe all the time, right? And then we have to be so like accepting different cultures in our culture and so on. And I think they lost the narratives there. Like there's the thing. I'm just in the Berlin newspaper. I gave an interview and I said, look, I don't care if 50 different nationalities live in Germany. I don't care if you're a Christian or a Muslim. But when you left your country and you're now with us, you cannot block the road because you want to praise to Allah. You cannot do demonstrations where you run around and say all Germans are pigs and we need to kill them. That is where I draw the line. You cannot come as a hostile takeover, or in a way where you feel like that's just like, that's not okay to behave like this.
I'm sure. Like, I mean, I've spent my life in education, inclusion, and my friends, my Muslim friends, my Hindu friends, and things like that. But the reason they're my friends, it would be very difficult for them to be my friends if they were actively saying that they hate me. And that goes for anything else. It'd be difficult for them to be my friend if I was part of some aggressive group. And I think that the scariest thing, and maybe one of the reasons that people are always a little bit intimidated by your films, is you mentioned the word nihilism, and I think with Rampage is a good example of that. Maybe the audiences are used to and have been trained to have every single justification for the way the character behaves spelled out to them. And with nihilistic films, it's like they just did it, and it may have occurred over time and incremental things, but you're going to have to work that out. And audiences are maybe shown now through a lot of movies, mainstream movies, that they don't have to work it out. You'll be told what to think, and nihilism is quite scary because we want to kind of say, this is the bad guy, this is the good guy, this is why they're bad, they did all these things, and really spell it out. But that again is underestimating an audience, isn't it?
No, 100%. And I think the audience is always way more clever as the people think, or as the reviewers want. They always think the audience has to be directed in a way. And I think I like it that people react different to my movies. And in my case, I'm like, for example, I went on Rotten Tomatoes yesterday, and it's very interesting. Like, you have the same people who bash me since 20 years. I give it 1 out of 5. Most of them didn't watch the movie. They said like, Uwe Boll is a piece of shit. He only made shit movies. I hated House of the Dead, blah, blah, blah. So, and then you have the other half. Yeah, they did. And then you had the other half this time on Citizen Vigilante. Normally it's like 80-20 against me, right? So this time it's really 50-50. This time, it's like a lot of people are on it and say, no, I watched the movie makes sense, I like the movie actually, and not only for political reasons, they just like the movie. And and so it's like this kind of, now it's more 50-50. Also on IMDb, it is on 5 points and not on 1 or 2, as so many times my movies were downgraded and rated down. And in a total discrepancy to how many people watched this, right? So that's another thing. House of the Dead was a financial massive success, and it got written down like it was the biggest piece of shit flop ever existed, and it's not true. That's another thing where I'm fighting for, like, all that years with almost 40 movies done with tons of Hollywood stars and Oscar-winning actors, that no, I'm not Ed Wood. You know, and I like actually Ed Wood, and
I quite enjoy some Ed Wood.
It's like the people should be a little more, especially people who are working in the business. They should be a little more aware of what I actually did, and then it's an enormous amount, a body of work. And if I would not get written down so much from this kind of mainstream Hollywood sector, I would already had 15 festivals with retrospective Uwe Boll, right? Yeah. So say, like, I mean, who you find in Europe who has this body of work, it's very tough, you know, to find a similar person. And
certainly, you're
yes, you know, but did I got it, like, do I was at any film festivals besides the one in Spain this year? And for 15 years, I didn't get an invite to anything. You know, like, I'm never getting, like, you want to be a jury member in this thing, or we want to show nothing, zero. And that's the result out of this, similar, the same reason as why Armie Hammer is still canceled, is this kind of, the people all want to be swimming with the winning team. You know, they don't want to swim against the stream. And for me, I think it was always important to say, take Armie Hammer, why is in the movie? Because I felt, after looking deep into the scandal, that everything what happened is not a reason to cancel a guy. You know, if you cheat on your wife, you have four girlfriends parallel, and they do, like, kinky sex together, would I do it? No. But is that a reason to say you will never work again? You're 35 years old, you're a big Hollywood star, and now you're toast forever for us because, oh my God, we cannot do it. That's absurd.
I don't know the ins and outs of him and as a person or his private life or anything. In this film, I got like a kind of Dexter, cold, military vibe from him. Which was, you know, obviously that's got nothing to do with him as a personality, but it would almost be, to criticize him being in the film, it would be almost like, you know, stunt casting is a big thing, particularly in crowdfunded movies. And I would say that most of those filmmakers who do the stunt casting to get someone in it to make this person's in my movie before they've even written the movie, is a thing that people do. And there is no, like, kickback or pushback on that in the way that there is when you cast somebody. And I don't think that's just because it's Armie Hammer. I could be wrong. It just seems a strange one because there are plenty of people in Hollywood who've done reprehensible things and are making movies today. And they're just kind of, the name trumps everything, you know, the name goes above everything. So they're in my movie, therefore come and watch my movie. And the same goes with, like, say, filming in Croatia. Of course, if it's financially better to film somewhere, then people will do that. And I don't understand. With you, it's like he chose Armie Hammer because he agrees with every single thing Armie Hammer did. He chose Croatia because he's like a grifter and there's tax. Well, hang on a minute. Isn't everybody who makes a movie trying to get people to watch it because it has famous faces in it and trying to do it on a way that they can try and make some money out of it? I don't understand how that can be something, a stick to beat you with.
No, I know they're all, I mean, all Hollywood movies are done so that they make money with, or subscribers or whatever, right? So, and if they lie about it, like that, they're just lying about it. Nobody makes a movie. Even Anora or whatever was not done to lose money.
That's not the intention.
Like also this movie was done on a budget, very low budget, in the idea, and the filmmaker even said it, to get into Cannes. Right? So there are filmmakers, they're making movies based on, here's my chance. People like to work with me. So I work with famous actors. So I get in an A-list festival, and there will be a bidding war, and somebody buys the movie. So that's the idea. It happens less and less. Cannes was a total disappointment this year because most of the streamers don't buy, because most of the streamers have now the epiphany, like, the shit we're buying in Cannes, nobody cares. It's like this kind of, they are hyped up because they're getting 15-minute standing ovations, but there are mostly movies what nobody will click on to actually watch. They will like, yeah, fuck, I'm not doing it. So that's the result. So in this way, the streamers have to react to reality, and of course, here we have the situation now. We have like kind of a political scandal with Citizen Vigilante. We have Armie Hammer in. Normally, when a movie like this, in a way, gets so much tension, like attraction, Netflix should give us money to buy it right now.
All publicity is good publicity. Yeah.
I mean, if you put this on Netflix now, worldwide, same day, you have maybe 50 million views, right?
So I'd imagine so. I think so.
And it would be a massive hit on Netflix or on whatever, Apple or Amazon. But they're all too political correct to buy it, So I mean, it is on Apple and Amazon, but you have to pay it, So, but to get it really that Prime will buy it now and put it out on Prime everywhere for free, they're scared.
But it's funny as well because again, the people making those decisions have probably not watched the movie, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say, for me, there was a key scene, and maybe some people missed it. I don't think this is a spoiler, but there's a scene where there's a car, because how he sees things is very black and white, very military regimented, very right and wrong, and that's okay if the people agree with the thing he's doing. But then there's moments where he, like, for example, the driving the car in the wrong lane scene, I think is really key, because it's like he can justify anything that he does because he has these ingrained rules. And in a way, it's almost comedic because it goes back to like what you were saying with falling down, which was strangely, people didn't have the same discourse about that. They just kind of accepted that he was this, maybe because it was, I don't know, again, maybe the cult of the actor involved or something, I don't know. But it was such a strange one, because I feel like that is a key scene, because it's not, you can't get on board with that and go, what a fantastic decision to smash into somebody because they were on the wrong side of the road. You'd have to be a complete psychopath to agree with that and go, what a great point of view that man has. But that's ignored, and other scenes are focused on more. I think that's a really key scene. Would you agree? Or
yeah, I think I 100% agree with you. There was also a scene what Armie didn't want it in the movie. People also said he cannot do it, and he looks too bad. And I said, no, he should look bad. I said, like, no, he is a very, let's say, in a way, also crazy, dark character. And but what the scene has another meaning to it too. And that is when he goes on the other lane and the car comes towards him, he basically says to the judge on his side, like, look, they are so trained, they don't know what to do. They don't react correct. They don't they are like this kind of follow like sheep, basically.
Yeah.
And of course, his plan was that guy goes also on the wrong lane. They would just pass.
Yes.
But the guy, and he proves the point. No, this guy will rather die as leaving. So it's like a symbol scene, right? So
yeah.
and I feel a lot of times we are doing, especially in the last whatever 5 to 10 years, I have the feeling that people double down on wrong behavior. They double down on like political wrong decisions, and they like leading to a total shit show, right? So I mean, I take the Ukraine war. Longer as the First World War going on, and okay, what's the solution, right? Instead, like, is it really like defeating Russia and having a third world war in the end? I mean, what the fuck? Like, that's the thing. It's like, what is our game plan with that Ukraine war? And I think it's kind of suicidal that the EU, like this kind of, okay, Trump now makes money on the Ukraine war after like the last 10 months, he just sells his weapons to us, and we keep supporting the Ukraine. And we should support the Ukraine. And yeah, Putin is the aggressor, but we also should work way more actively in getting this to an end without a nuclear exchange, right? So, I mean, that's for me where I have the feeling the EU, especially Starmer, Macron, and Merz, did absolutely nothing to get on the table with Putin, to get like involved in getting this thing over with, right? So and there Trump got trashed for trying. Like he was like, everybody like, forget it, it's senseless. But
it's so difficult, isn't it? It's so difficult because, of course, almost in a perfect world, you'd want somebody more trustworthy to be doing that, and there isn't really anyone, and that's the sad state of affairs. Is that even if a terrible person does a good thing, that's not the ideal scenario, and it's very depressing and sad. And I think people do switch off and go, there is no kind of positive end in sight. And I guess it goes back to the first thing we were saying, which is people not even willing to entertain an idea or a solution or a discourse that isn't the one they already have. And like that's really quite sad. And it's, in fact, in a way, it's the reason I like interviewing people online, is because we might not have the same point of view, but we could still be friends. And I know that sounds really twee and simplistic. However, like, that is the key. That is the key. We can only, we should not be having wars in 2026. Like, that should not be happening. There should, we should have made some sort of emotional, social progress in all this time. Like, I teach history, and when we talk about all the different treaties after the World War, and it always came down to the personalities of the people involved in the treaties. It never came down to the content of the treaties. And we're still there now, where it's like personalities are more important than thinking about what's best for millions of people. And it's really scary that we're still there in 2026. And again, it comes down, it's like movies. Like we're saying, people are more interested in talking about you as a personality than they are about your movie. Personality politics.
At least I'm not an unknown director, so that's the good thing.
yeah. But the problem with that is like that you do get prejudged, and you made Auschwitz, and not a lot of people will make a film like that because of it's sensitive, and it's and certainly I don't think people in Germany would want to kind of get in front of making a film like that. The seriousness that's required, it just makes me think that some of the things thrown at you are just so simplistic. Is it just easy to just go, I'll just bat this away? Is it like being a boxer? Is it just kind of keep walking forward and try and, you know, deflect the punches? Like, what is the secret to kind of taking this on the chin and without going, I made this film, have you not seen this film? Like, what are you talking about?
No, yeah, that's true. But it's also like there are two things to it. The first is you get used to everything and you just have to get over it, right? Or you jump from the bridge. So, and I don't want to do this. So
yeah, resilience. Yeah.
to it. It's also like, I think one person wrote like a few months ago, I said like Uwe Boll is the only person you cannot cancel because he was never non-cancelled. So it's like
yeah, been cancelled years
the
ago.
oldest member of the cancel culture club on earth as a filmmaker, but that also gave me enormous freedom. You know, this kind of like, everybody knows when I say fuck you all, that's basically what I did and what I meant. And that's in a way very like this self, like it makes you happy. You know, that I never had this kind of discussions with an agent, manager, PR person, whatever, what I never had, all of this, where they tell me what to do or what they think I should do, right? I'm not the type for it, so I skipped all of this part, playing the Hollywood game. People are trying to schmooze people, and that's now a very, you reach this point of, no, that's great, that I don't fall into this category and that I made my own decisions my own way. Yeah, but as you said, a lot of people judged me based on 3 movies or 4 movies and not based on 39 or 40 movies. And they missed all this, like the Auschwitz, the Stoic, the Soul on Wall Street, Rampage, whatever. They missed all that movies. And I think that's, it's on them. They should, most of the movies now, most of my movies, you can actually watch on Prime for free now, right? Or all this kind of free AVOD streamers. So even on YouTube, Google Play, and so on. So there is nothing holding you back to watch a lot of Uwe Boll movies, and you don't even have to pay for it. So yeah, I mean, that's it. And I hope a lot of people will watch Citizen Vigilante and at least pay for it and don't watch it for free. I'm far away of having my money back, to be honest, right? So so I want to see that independent movies can also recoup their budgets, and at the same time, I'm happy to discuss with everybody about any political subject. But I didn't make that movie to say go and do violent things against migrants. I made that movie to tell politicians you need to take the people who are victims, on people they're getting oppressed through migration and through radical Islam, not like Muslims, like radical Islam. You need to take that serious. That's a serious threat for Europe and for the democracy in Europe and for the personal safety of people, right? On railway stations, in public spaces. And you need to as the governments of European countries, especially Britain, especially Germany and France, they need to take that serious. You cannot ignore your own population and say, it's not what you see. It's not what you know, like the old naked gun joke. There's nothing to watch, keep going, and the building is burning. So that's the real message of Citizen Vigilante.
I think hiding away from something, it will create worse results. And mainly, like I think of like how I've taught RE, religious education. You know, the whole point of it for me was always like, if we understand something, we can't hate it. So we need to understand more about it. Whereas now I feel like the sort of general prevailing thing is I don't want to understand it because I want to continue hating something. And like, well, of course that will, or we'll hide something from people and we won't talk about it. And then the fear builds. And like, it's very hard to be afraid of something if you understand it and you're engaging with it. Like but the idea that someone is saying, we're not going to make this film because it talks about things that are uncomfortable or things I don't know about. Therefore, if I don't know about it, I don't want to know about it because it might make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I don't want to have this conversation. Then eventually that will bubble up. The conversations have to be had. The understanding has to be had. You know, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like we can pick apart the ones who are trying to do this, you know, make points for political reasons that are just to advance their own careers. It's because they're not interested in listening. They're only interested in spouting their own ideals. Whereas I think that when we watch this film, you know, it would be ridiculous for people to go, oh, it's this. I haven't seen it, but it's this. And I don't want to talk about it. And I don't want to hear anything about, you know, an opposing point of view on it or parts of the film that I haven't seen a little clip of. And I just think that is kind of indicative of just society in general. Having a conversation, it's like I don't. There's loads of things I don't agree with, but that doesn't mean I hate the person who's saying it. And it's why are people kind of having this kind of reaction to something that actually is there to entertain? And if it makes you ask a question of yourself, I was just thinking of the 1970s, and I'll ask you about this actually. After Vietnam, films like I Spit on Your Grave, or the film that Wes Craven made, kind of reflected about man's inhumanity to man and kind of losing a side of yourself and behaving in a very animalistic way because of the things that had happened to them. And I think it kind of commented on the things people had been in Vietnam in a way that they weren't having therapy. They were just kind of coming back to society and just, you know, kind of having to deal with these things. There are films that you only watch once, really, and they're really shocking and thought-provoking and quite intense. There's not really films like that since the 70s where people watch a film and maybe can only watch it once because it's so raw and intense. I wonder if that's kind of the reason people who maybe give you lots of abuse about this film, maybe it's a similar kind of thing. It's like we just don't want to think about those things. Like we really don't. Like, I wonder if there's a parallel there, you know, because I don't really feel like Death Wish, people attach things to it afterwards, but Michael Winner just wanted to make a sort of exploitative film and make an entertaining film with lots of shooting and, you know, reason, and as long as the result justified what the person did, then everybody went home feeling happy. Like that person got their results, you know.
Yeah, but in Death Wish, there was a kind of a crime wave in New York subway systems and so on. So he ignited also there this kind of reaction, what was way bigger as the movie in a way.
Yeah. I believe the book was approached it in a different way. I believe that the author of the book was like, this isn't kind of what I want from it. Whereas Michael Winner was more like, yeah, but this looks better and is more sort of visceral and violent and kind of more the entertainment side of it. And that's fine. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I love, you know, it's strange, isn't it? People are quite happy to say, oh, this is an exploitation film. Like, well, if we're saying that, then you're accepting that there are parts of it that are kind of factor 100 crazy, you know, just mad entertainment in the same way as watching a crazy sci-fi film or something. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just big and bold and fun. But I guess going back to what I was saying about the I Spit on Your Grave and films like that, they kind of told us where the zeitgeist was at the moment. And I suppose there really isn't, and maybe that's what you're addressing here, there isn't really people willing to talk about things. It goes right back to what you said at the beginning, things that people are concerned about now, because that's a little bit too dangerous to touch, isn't it?
Yeah. And in earlier years, we had then later the Oliver Stone movies, they were all very accurate about real stuff. Apocalypse Now, Hunter, Coming Home, Taxi Driver, they were all Vietnam kind of like
true
demasking the Vietnam War propaganda and showing how crazy and negative it was, and that it made generations of young Americans very psychological, brought them in a problematic situation. And I think in the last 10, 15 years, all of this completely dissolved. Now film is total entertaining, basically, only, or the desperate attempt to do just entertaining. They are not political anymore. And only documentaries are done where you still face reality, right? But not really fiction. But I have to run because I have an appointment like in 15
No. Thank you so much for your time. I've had it. I mean, this. I wasn't going to keep, because we were both saying before the interview how warm it was, and we were gonna have a bit of a shorter interview, but it's just so fascinating talking to you. And I suppose, like, I just want to say how much I kind of appreciate your openness and talking about this. And I think that for people, if I don't care, I'm sure you don't really care if people love or hate, as long as they make that decision to watch it first.
Yeah, and then making their own evaluation, and don't judge anything without digging in, right? Don't say a book is shit but not reading it, a film is shit but not watching it. That's the worst thing. It's not, as you said, there are good reasons for some people maybe to say Citizen Vigilante, I didn't like it because of A, B, C, D. But if you didn't watch it, you just make things up out of your ass, and then you're disqualified in talking about it.
Yeah. If people are watching this film and going, "This is my handbook," then I would be really concerned about those people. I don't know if it needs restating. It's a movie, and like, I found it very entertaining. Also, it really grabbed me, and I like movies that grab me. And again, I hope you take this as a compliment. It's a movie I'm going to watch once, because when you feel uncomfortable, you go, right, I've seen that, I've really engaged with it. I don't know if I could go through that trauma again.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Oh,
well, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Good luck with the movie, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Well, it's been an absolutely great experience with Uwe. It's funny. I kind of made that Michael Winner comparison, and I kind of know people who knew him, and I know, I've read his book and things like that. Uwe is just a great guy with his dogs and family, and I think that in a way I admire that ability to. He just keeps pushing forward and making movies that he wants to make, and addresses it in a, I guess it's, like I said before, like a boxer's mentality. Criticism is really, really hard for a lot of people to take, but Citizen Vigilante, I think I said all along, like, I took it as a piece of entertainment, and I took it as, of course, there are going to be behaviors from every culture, religion, and part of society. And I guess pretending that it doesn't from certain ones leads to almost a worse scenario. And, I really appreciate just having the conversation. I don't think you should be afraid of having that conversation. I don't think I agree with everyone I meet, but that doesn't mean I can't be their friend. And that, again, that sounds a bit sweet and a bit simplistic, but that's the way I look at it. And I think a lot of us are really switched off from politics. And I was just thinking about this and I'm not by any means an expert on politics at all, but I was just thinking about how, we're looking for a new prime minister at the moment in the UK. One of the things that struck me about that was, if the people in power would stick to the promises that they made and address the things that they said, then everyday people will get on board. We want healthcare, good healthcare. We want our old people looked after. We want our children looked after. We want a society where we're only as strong as our weakest member. That we don't have just like a certain amount of families with billions of pounds who, and then everybody else, like massive amount of the population, can't afford to put food on the table. These are things that really matter. And I don't think it's about race. I think it's about poverty. And I think it's about blame. And I think it's like easier to blame than to kind of look at the root causes of these things. And I don't even think, I think if you're watching this film and it makes you feel a certain way about, doing something, actually try and look at it as what it is. It's a fictional film, which obviously with films, they're to a certain degree, unless they're a documentary, they're exaggerating things for effect. The reason that this is kind of making headlines and discussions, I guess, is because anytime you try and sort of shelve something and dismiss something, there'll be more people rising up and going, why are you dismissing and shelving something? Can we not make up our own minds? And I think that's what it comes down to. I don't believe in underestimating an audience. I don't believe in kind of assuming that an audience will watch something and then they'll all turn into vigilantes. That we're better than that. A lot of us grew up in the 80s and we watched all of the death wishes all the way through, and none of us watched those movies and were like, I'm so glad he killed this person who's this race. And no, we didn't. We were just like this person did a bad thing, and the catharsis of a bad thing getting its sort of punishment straight away is a really great feeling for a moviegoer. It's great. It's like when Ivan Drago kills Apollo, so Rocky goes to Russia and beats the shit out of him. Like, that feels great. That's what movies do. It does not mean that I am Rocky Balboa. It does not mean that I'm going to nip off to Russia and try and find a big 7-foot boxer and try and fight. Like, yes, of course, there's always going to be somebody maybe who is looking for something to attach to, but I think that's really unfair to then put that at the door of the filmmaker. It's one of those. It's like, I guess you'll get what you want to get from this film. Art is subjective, and I'm certainly not preaching to you. Get what you want out of this film, and once again, huge thank you to Uwe. It's been maybe over a year since I spoke to him, and I'm like always blown away by how open and friendly and just what a kind guy he is. I know it probably doesn't do his street cred any good, but yeah, and I can only judge people on how they engage with the conversation. I think I really don't have anything else to say on the subject. If you like your sort of vigilante films, somebody does something bad and then something bad happens to them, then this might be the film for you. I don't. It's crazy, really, isn't it? Because that's Batman. And I think this film was originally called The Dark Knight. That's Batman. Like, that's what we like about Batman. Like, he doesn't have any super powers or anything. He has resources, but he doesn't have powers. And he he dishes out justice. And I guess when we're feeling out of control or overwhelmed by social media and horrible doom scrolling and terrible things, which kind of amplifies smaller things, sometimes a movie is a good way of just kind of going, bad thing happens, this is the consequence. That's that's what happens at the end of Avengers. That's what happens at the end of nearly all of the films that you watch. So I'm in a bit of a ramble now at the end, but I'm kind of left with a feeling I think that went well. Let me know how the interview went from your point of view, what you think about it. And again, like, I don't want any, if you're watching this and you're kind of co-opting this for a hateful reason, I don't want your comments. I don't want them. I don't want you watching my channel. If you're willing to engage with the subjects in a way that is, the merits of the film, then you're always welcome here. Like, I know I said I'm willing to like engage and talk to people, and I am. But if you've already made your mind up about things and you're not willing to kind of take on board the fact that I don't support your racist ideology and your point of view is just going to be that you're right and I'm wrong, then there's no point in us having that conversation. I don't want to be part of a world where people are hating each other. I want like learning about each other and kind of a little bit of openness and vulnerability. I feel like Uwe does that in his interviews, and I feel I do that on my channel, and I'm willing to engage with you on that level. But yeah, just I'd like you to engage in that same way. Okay, I will see you soon. That was quite intense for somebody like me who's not really, I don't really talk about politics. I talk about movies, and I try to really, really focus on it's a movie where there's a little bit of a political element in a sense, but really what it is, it's a pulp vigilante movie where some of the things in it are kind of referencing concerns that people have. Yeah. Okay. I think we're done. So I think what I've done, I've just fast forwarded through that ramble. I'll just go, and now we're here. Thanks for watching. Put a subscribe on there. Watch the movie when it's available wherever you are, and let me know what you think. It's not changed me as a person, but it has. I thought it was shot well. I thought there was some really good action scenes. I have seen some people post underneath the clips from it and stuff, almost like taking them out of context and just going like, yeah. Those people like can fuck off. I don't think, that Uwe is anti-violence. He's literally said he was anti-violence. So I think what I'll do is I'll leave you on that. I think the key thing that came out of that is that Uwe said in the interview how, he's not encouraging violence. He does not want people to deal with their problems in a violent way. I think what he wants to do is like maybe not without putting words in his mouth. And I'm pretty sure I'm kind of paraphrasing what he was saying. It's not about hiding from conversations. And I'm not against that at all. I'm always going to support independent filmmakers having a voice. Not always going to agree with the voice, but that's okay. We can still be pals. So thanks again. Thanks for watching the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.